East Africa's largest youth leaders gathering. 2019 Youth Summit theme was Youth at the Crossroads, Migration, Participation and Access to Opportunity.
You are welcome to ULEAD 2019, leaving no one behind. According to data, the world is a young world, and in particular, Africa is a young continent. So we are wondering, why can't young people take over that region?
We think that the moment is now. We think that the potential exists. We think that you can actually make a difference, and you can actually take this region to the next level.
The youth are not the leaders of tomorrow, but the leaders of today. And political seats are never given, they are taken.
So can we seek to address that, such that at the end of the day, we're ensuring that we are getting rid of emerging oppressive practices that end up marginalizing youth further, including the young women that we as women have in our houses as domestic workers?
I myself, being a young person, I think I came here not just to represent the open society, but also to be among the participants and learn from other people.
We all need peace and security to be able to do whatever we want to do. Remember one thing, the average age of leaders and politicians in Africa is about 60 years of age. You are not there. And you can never get to 60 years of age if you are used for their purposes.
So you need to understand you have the capability to engage and do anything, including being presidents of countries.
So I encourage you to share your ideas, experiences, and make the most out of the next few days. But I'd like to leave you with a quote from an American author called Carl S. Buck. She said, "The young do not know enough to be prudent, and therefore they attempt the impossible and achieve it generation after generation."
It is your moment. It is your moment, and you have all reasons, legitimate reasons, to claim your space. We are not wise enough to give it to you, so you have to claim it. Claim your seat.
If you want to ensure that things work well in our countries, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, build the judiciary and work towards building that to work.
If youth in East Africa want to lead, my own suggestion is that you seize it. Stop organizing, organize.
Day 1, Youth in Politics, East Africa's Under 40 Political Leaders Forum, Reinventing Leadership for East African Millennials. The forum focused on examining East Africa's current political narrative, attitudes and practices. It assessed whether the political policy choices and priorities adopted by East African leaders embrace the legitimate aspirations and voice of youth in the region and respond to their needs and demands. Also discussed was the vulnerability of youth to conflicts in the region, the role youth can play in peace building, ensuring sustainable security and stability in East Africa.
Is that politics is invariably personal. And that means that when people get into politics, you get brought down to the ground level really fast.
Encouragement to the youth is that nobody is going to give you power. Nobody is going to tell you that there is a seat somewhere. You have to seize that.
Let's see ourselves as problem solvers. If you are an IT person, kindly go use your expertise and solve the problems that is hitting our community.
Outcomes launched the first ever East Africa Under 40 Political Leaders Forum to now be held annually. Initiated the process of forming an East African Youth Manifesto and a campaign on the East Africa Youth Want. Initiated a youth leadership and mentorship program, the first cohort to be admitted in 2020 for serving and aspiring young parliamentarians working together across the region. Created a network to connect ULEAD alumni with mentors and mentorship opportunities to inspire alumni to compete for elective positions elections in the next election cycle across the EAC partner states and working together towards peaceful elections to avoid election-related violence and insecurity. Initiated a biannual country-by-country and regional biannual youth political leaders performance peer review mechanism for holding elected youth representatives accountable to themselves and the youth constituents they represent. Day 2, Youth in Business and Enterprise, East Africa Under 40 Business Leaders Forum, Globalization. Has globalization lost its steam? The forum was dedicated to discussions on youth and cross-border trade agreements in Africa, the EHC Common Market Protocol implementation, its successes and shortcomings in pursuit of youth-centered cross-border business facilitation in response to youth unemployment challenges through enterprise and innovation.
We need to define, as far as globalization is concerned, we as African, what do we have to offer?
And I think one of the key challenges I personally had was I did not think big enough, fast enough.
We need to change our mindsets about our own products.
Workshop. A number of workshops were facilitated by ULEAD consortium members. Globalization and regionalism, impact of current trends and attitudes on East African young people's business aspirations and the future of work. Bridging youth skills gap, recognition of prime skills and youth labor mobility. Migrants and refugees, improving a world on the move. Artificial intelligence, machine learning and the future of work, skills of the future. Youth embracing leadership roles and inventing youth-led accountability. The status of young women in cross-border business in East Africa, enabling and hindering factors. ULEAD Innovation Hub, insights on how to move from an idea to a business. Outcome, launched the first ever East Africa Under 40 Business Leaders Forum to now be held annually. Identified and documented were a set of youth-specific policy and capacity gaps faced by youth business leaders attempting to do cross-border business within the EAC. Consensus on key interventions for creating an enabling environment for youth-led cross-border business and enterprise innovations from a youth business leader's perspective. Facilitated the formation of a network of young CEOs and entrepreneurs across the EAC. Agenda for establishing the East African Fellows Program, a young professional skills exchange program aimed at promoting labor mobility and recognition of prior acquired standardized skills in East Africa. And yes, the climax of the day was the CEO networking dinner, which cemented intergenerational business relationships between young CEOs, young political leaders, ULEAD Summit partners, government representatives, and policymakers. Day 3, Post-Summit Agenda. The day was dedicated to creating a strong alumni network, the ULEAD Action Network, and the agenda of action based on the outcome of the national level pre-summit events and the summit. This resulted into a regional common agenda of action and country-specific interventions for each of the countries.
ULEAD is not here to support Museveni or Bobi Wine. ULEAD is for us to learn and say, hey, how can we make a change?
Informed by those key 4 ambitions, which are long-term, we ask ourselves, how do we get there? The only way we can get there is being very intentional and deliberate about a post-summit agenda, strategy, and action.
Day 4 and 5, the East African Youth Parliament, Vijana Assembly. ULEAD Summit is not just an event, it's a youth leadership development program seeking to ensure the inclusion of youth voices in key regional decision-making processes and unlock youth leadership potential for a more prosperous region. That is why, as part of the immediate post-summit agenda, the representatives of delegates attended the Vijana Assembly and submitted the outcomes of ULEAD Summit 2019 to the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, RT Honorable Martin Gonga. The delegates demanded that the EALA reflects youth perspective in all its legislative, representation and oversight work processes and asked for prioritizing the promotion of youth participation and empowerment as a central part of leadership development and the East Africa Youth Want.
ULEAD Summit 2019 is the Africa that we want.
And I really appreciate ULEAD Summit for giving us a platform on how we can build a collective power to create a sustainable movement that will help us create change in our society.
So I'm very, very happy to participate in ULEAD Summit 2019.
ULEAD Summit is really awesome.
ULEAD Summit Youth Power.
ULEAD Summit is empowering.
To all the ULEAD partners of 2019, thank you for your continued commitment to the ULEAD ambitions. Your participation and support has enabled us to meet several of our goals for 2019. We look forward to continued success together through this collaboration as we pursue the post-summit agenda. To partner with us, contact us. partners@uleadsummit.org, info@uleadsummit.org, www.uleadsummit.org. Follow us on all social media channels via @ULEADSummit.
Of course, leaving no one behind. Wow, ULEAD Summit. Thank you so much, Franklin, for the materials there that have been playing and just showing us what ULEAD and the East African community for the young people has been up to in ensuring not just the inclusion, but really how and the action points. Welcome. We have a quorum of around 42 participants, and that is good enough for us to start off. Welcome. This is the Africa Continental Free Trade Awareness, Free Trade Area rather Awareness campaign that is led by ULEAD and East Africa Community together with ActionAid. You're welcome from wherever it is you're tuned in from, Kenya, East Africa, and around the world. My name is Brian George Otieno. I'm a news anchor at KTN Standard Group, PLC, right here in Nairobi, and a young entrepreneurship enthusiast, an enthusiast in matters of innovation and technology, and of course, social action. We have a lot lined up for you today on this meeting that will span about 1 hour, 30 minutes. They're about just crisscrossing and dissecting all these issues, dotting the I's and crossing the T's on what is this Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. There's a lot of knowledge gap around it, as we found out yesterday, and that is why we are here today to to shed more light, to ventilate onto the issue, and to tell you as a young person how exactly you can plug in. We'll be having a host of very well knowledgeable, panelists, from Edith Jackie, who is a multi entrepreneur who is really into social action and a lot of all these things that we'll be talking about later on in the course of the broadcast. And of course, Charity Mbibe, Ayman, and John Bosco will also be joining us later on. So with that introduction, I wish also to just lay the ground and say that we are open and we want to have a very, very interactive summit here today so that we address all your questions. We talk about everything that you all the questions that you've been asking concerning Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Why perhaps you're not having the opportunity in Arusha, and the opportunity could perhaps be in Mozambique, in Maputo, maybe in Lilongwe, Malawi, or in the Kalahari Desert in the city of Gaborone in Botswana. We want to talk about how you can tap into that. We want to look at the market penetration of the East African goods in places like Cairo, Egypt, and look at how your canned fish can get market in Warri, Nigeria. This is that summit that will address all these issues, and we hope that this will not be the last of its kind as we keep on. It's a conversation we have to keep on having. Of course, issues of political awareness and political issues affecting trade across Africa will also be addressed here, financing, and much, much more. So you are in good hands. We wish that this becomes a very interactive session where you post your questions on the chat box right there, and we'll be able to address all of them. We'll give each and every one of you also a chance to just give a voiced question and to pour in your comments, your concerns, and some of the things that you wish be addressed. Welcome on board. This is Africa Continental Free Trade Awareness, Free Trade Area Awareness rather, by ULEAD and East Africa Community. To start us off will be our first panelist of the day, Edith Jackie. At just 25 years old, I met her around last year when we were doing an awareness for Riara University, and she was one of the alumni that was proposed by the school. And man, she struck me really, really as a knowledgeable person. She's an avid reader, runs 3 companies. At just 25 years of age, she has a master's and MBA. Edith will be here to just lay the ground and break the ice on Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Welcome, Edith. She joins us live from Nairobi.
Thank you, Brian. So just to make sure, how many minutes do I have? Because I'm a strict timekeeper for myself. I want to set a timer.
All right. So let's see. Let's give you 4 minutes, maybe 4 minutes.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yes.
Let me just get my timer ready. Perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Edith Jackie. I am a social and serial entrepreneur, meaning everything that I do is always in line with creating opportunities for young African people. You've heard about my age. I'm 25. Apparently, ladies are not supposed to see their age, so I don't know what that means. But have been exposed. It was not me who exposed myself. whoopsie, sorry. I hold a double bachelor's in finance as well as in economics from 2 separate universities here in Kenya. And I also hold 3 master degrees that I secured in Boston, New York, and London. I have a lot of my experience in the business field. The 3 companies that I run, again, like I've said, are all in line with supporting young people to access more opportunities. So the first company that I launched is Job Creation Limited. We're in 12 African countries and have created jobs for 50,000 young people. The second company that I run is Ariel for Africa. We work a lot with entrepreneurs, which is why this agreement is so close to our heart, because we're all about creating opportunities for entrepreneurs and seeing how the Wanjiko can actually make this a reality in her business and use the agreement to scale what she's doing to other levels. So we have a lot of programs, a lot of legal support, funding support, connections and partnerships for entrepreneurs. For corporate leaders, we have a program called Jenga Boss that allows them to access promotions. We just launched a financial literacy and money management program with the Nairobi Stock Exchange, so that's very exciting. And my third company, that's My Creative Brain, is a lot more intense in coaching, leadership workshops. We work in 40 developed countries, and we're now moving to developing markets, making sure that young people and millennials are future-proof, are prepared to take on the next level, right? A dynamic, and are basically growing beyond just the CV. You know, when a person looks at your CV, they cannot tell your perseverance, your endurance, the hard work that you've put in to get to where you are, and how your life has sort of molded you into the person that you are. So we do a lot in conferences, purpose programs, again, because that's a very interesting word. But that's what I do. I'm on LinkedIn, all these platforms, you'll find me. But just getting into the agreement. What is this agreement? I really want to simplify it, because when you look at the full agreement, there's a lot of hard words, a lot of sections, you know, 1 minute you're not sure where you are, you're not sure what you're understanding. So let me just break it down. Essentially, this agreement incorporates 55 markets, and the African continent is fast growing, it's dynamic. We're basically reaching our peak. We're like in our growth phase, if you look at it, almost like in the business world. But unfortunately, intra-trade, meaning trade between African countries, okay, has been very low. We do a lot more exporting to the Europes, the Asias, the whatevers, the US, than we do amongst ourselves. So what does this mean? Where Asia is keeping 68% of their trade within their continent, we're only keeping 18%. So this means we're sending our money outside, we're sending our good stuff outside, and we're not keeping it inside, okay? So it's like having chicken and giving out more of your chicken than you actually keep within your own household. But what this agreement will basically do is increase the trade within the continent by 50% by 2040. And will basically reduce a lot of the red tape. So what does this mean? The customs, the harassment on the borders, the bureaucracy, all of that will come down. And the goal is to bring together 1.2 billion people, right? And $3 trillion worth of GDP. Basically, think about it this way. This is the biggest agreement, trade agreement or trade deal since the World Trade Organization was formed. Like, this is game changing if we get it correct, okay? So the agreement is there. That's one thing, okay? But for us to actually see the results, that's why conversations like this are so important. So when we say trade, what do we mean? Okay, we keep saying, so okay, I'm gonna take 1 minute. When we say trade, what do we mean? We're talking about goods, we're talking about services, investment, intellectual property, and competition, right? And what will this lead to, ideally? Well, jobs, opportunities, development, lowering poverty, right? Increased food security. You have some areas right now that are thriving. Other African countries are in a drought. So that trade allows for that to be balanced off. Competitiveness, okay? So Wanjiko, here is your tip. This agreement means you need to level up You're no longer competing with Wanjiro and Wangari, okay? You are now competing around the entire continent. And then international trade as well as solidarity. Basically, the Africa that we want. Now, it's basically reversing everything that colonization did to us. What does this mean? Colonization engineered Africa to become the feeding plate for the rest of the world. But then now when we start feeding from each other rather than feeding from the rest of the world, then it solidifies everything that we're trying to do. But at the same time, what does it need? It needs all member states to play a part. Right now, we have about 33, 34 that have ratified this agreement. Where are the other 55? You know, the total 55. Where's the other percentage and what are they doing? And then not just ratifying it and talking about it, but actually having the common person, common wananchi understanding how to take advantage of this. So basically, this will end up becoming the world's largest, okay, free trade area. If you thought Africa was small, let me correct you, okay? We are the second largest continent, but more than anything, we have the most resources and the most raw materials. And that's why I'm so passionate about this. I'll get more into the advantages, the possible problems that we could face as Brian continues the conversation. I tried to keep my time. Thank you very much. My name is Edith, and I can't wait to keep talking.
I told you guys, you ain't ready. Thank you so much, Edith Jackie, for that power introduction, and of course, just breaking the ice in the smallest of bits. So the understanding, the very basic understanding for the Owino in Siaya, for the Wanjiro in Nyahururu, for Jaldesa in Isiolo, is that Africa is opening up. You will now be able to access markets in Sudan, in Congo, in places like Brazzaville, more openly. So far, it is, just to be exact, 36 countries have so far ratified that document. Of course, you're going to tell, of course, we'll get explanations from our experts on because 55 countries have so far committed, 54 rather have committed, 54 out of 55 countries have committed, but 36 have ratified. We want to see the difference between the two, commitment and ratification. And of course, because Africa is opening up, I just read somewhere that Rwanda has banned importation of mitumba, of the second-hand clothing. And of course, that's a big textile market that's opening up for Africa. Are there designers in the house? Yes, that is an opportunity for you. We have a quorum of 58 participants as we speak right now. And of course, you can head out to our social media platforms at YouLeadAfrica, at EAC_YAP. Please tweet some of the things that you have learned here. Thank you so much. You're getting comments as far as from Burundi. I missed the name, but we're going to read it in a short while. Biggie Romana Dudon from Burundi. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are live across all social media platforms of ESC and of YouLeadAfrica. Please do head to our social media platform and let's cause a bit of revolution out there. Now, for our first presenter, we will have a lady by the name Charity Mbithe. We first met at Centonomy, where she was, she formerly worked at Centonomy. Centonomy is an organization that helps young people and other entrepreneurs with management of financial services here in Kenya. She'll tell us more about what she's doing, but now she's going to talk about access to financing. Charity Mbithe, the floor is now yours. You have your 10 minutes to make a presentation. Go ahead, Charity.
Right. Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for the brief introduction. Yes, like you mentioned, my name is Charity Mbithe, and I'm so excited to be here. Within my 10 minutes, let me just go ahead and set the timer to start. Yes, so I'll do a brief introduction of myself. Like I said, I'm Charity Mbithe. I have a background in communication and journalism from Moi University. I graduated in 2019. And now that you're mentioning ages, I'm 24 years, turning 25 in May, and I can't wait. All right, so like Brian mentioned, I have a brief, I worked with Centonomy before. I was the PR and communications assistant, and basically Centronum is a basic literacy firm that equips people with knowledge on personal finance, entrepreneurship, and career advancement. So currently, right now, I'm working as the communication and digital content associate at Lattice Consulting, and basically Lattice, we have 10 years of experience just offering specialist corporate finance, strategy, and training services. So yeah, we bring business insights. We help people identify and experience new ways of thinking, build order and accountability, and all that. So we also have some training sessions where we have agriculture value chain finance training, business developments, and all that. And the last segment of Lattice is on Lattice Aqua, which provides a wide range of services to a diverse clientele locally and internationally. Yeah. So now right into the topic. One thing that really excites me, I love youth engagement. So I'm really happy to be here today on today's theme on assessing youth awareness, participation, and their perspectives on the role they play as stakeholders in AFCFTA implementation and promotion. Yeah, so like Edith mentioned, AFCFTA basically looks to create a liberalized market for goods and services, contributes to make the movement of capital, facilitates investments through various, creating a larger market in the African segment, as well as catalyzing the introduction of technology basically and boosting productivity across Africa. At the same time, like she mentioned, it's not just competing against one another, but at the same time, it's enhancing competitiveness of members' economies, the different countries, and promoting industrial development through diversification. So basically, one of the areas again is to eliminate tariffs on intra-Africa trade and making it easier for businesses to trade with Africa and benefit their own growing markets. Yeah, so in that regard, I would want to first touch on financing for these opportunities that Brian had mentioned. So I like quotes, and I like especially where business analysts and pros in this area give quotes. So basically, in the perspective of the great Pan-African Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, I think you all know him. It says that it is clear that we must find an African solution to Africa's problems, and that this can only be found in the African unity. Divided we are weak, united we stand. Africa could become one of the greatest forces for good in the world. So to address the reluctance and concerns about the FCTA, we must demonstrate that it is a major and tangible opportunity for all stakeholders, whether states or companies or SMEs, regardless of the sizes, civil society or individual citizens. Yeah, so basically here with regard to financing, I have 3 tips that I'll be sharing. And the first is, I know there are so many SMEs and there are so many youths who are wondering, what is this FCTA? And I'm sure Edith will be coming back with more details about it basically. But one of the things that I would want to highlight is to learn how to source for this financing and just basically to take control and take charge of the opportunities that are in it. One is youth, and by youth I mean everyone in this webinar and out there on the social media platforms and everyone. We need to expose ourselves to channels, to information, to all that that's gonna make us aware of what's happening so that you can be able to participate in it, because how can you even be able to participate in something that you're not well aware of? So in terms of looking for opportunities, I would want to highlight one thing, that Africa startups basically, there are some applications that are open, not precisely, maybe not right now, but they keep being open. And I'll give an example of this. So during the last part of the last year, we had a challenge for the African tech supports in close conjunction with the AFCFTA Vision Challenge. So here the opportunity was basically to support, Brian, did you say something? Feel free to, okay, I think that was someone else, yeah. Feel free to stop me if I'm too quick, and feel free to just, to interrupt me where you want to. So in terms of looking for opportunities, as I was mentioning, so here the challenge was basically offering SMEs the opportunities to secure investments from development finance institutions, and at the same time it would put in the prime position to benefit from other opportunities offered by the AFCFTA. So basically there are many things that youths and even SMEs should get right to ensure that Africa derives the full range of benefits from this. So some might take a while, but at the end of the day, what matters is participation and just being intentional about it, creating powerful connections through institutional partnerships and technologies and all that. So now I know that is one of the challenges that were open, but you can just check it out and just get a gist of what we are talking about. So it's Africa Tech AFC FTA Vision Challenge. So being able to participate in these challenges and looking for funds. Then the second is opportunities for factoring in Africa. And that will give access to finance for SMEs in the sense that they'll play a key role in intra-regional trade under the AFCFTA. So basically, what is factoring? Factoring is basically a financial transaction and a type of debt financing in which a business sells its receivables, the outstanding invoices, to a third party agent that is now called the factor. That is the factor I'm referring to here, at a discount. So it is a form of selling the receivables to an agent at a less than its full value. So for instance, SMEs, we all know that they constitute the greatest proportion of the continent's industrial fiber, and accounting for about 80% of businesses and employing not less than 70% of continent's workforce. So these are pretty much big figures. And again, given that the access to finance remains a key constraint to SME operations, availability of sustainable trade finance, especially for SMEs, will remain very lubricant to propel the AFCFTA basically. So yeah, there's that. And why factoring matters is because SMEs would now be able to benefit immensely from using the factoring window to increase their cash flow, as money is also needed to grow the business, as well as keep up with the rising order numbers within the constraint of low working capital. And again, you'll realize that SMEs want to meet the present and immediate cash needs. And so factoring will come in very handy and will be very helpful in just ensuring that the SME's receivable assets are at a discount and largely depend on the risk grade of the receivables involved. And then again, just to note that factoring really, it's not technically a loan, and thus it will not add to a company's debt or tie up the collateral that may be required to secure other bank loans or facilities. So yeah, I think that those are some of the pointers I had on the factoring bit. And one thing that I would want to note with regard to pitfalls taxation, I know so many people would want to, I mean, if I was to ask here, who would want to trade, import, export, not just in Africa, but even across the world, many people would be interested. So the bit of taxation really comes up and you realize that micro, small, and even SMEs and micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, basically informal traders, youth and women business operators, they play a very crucial role in African trade, but sometimes they are disproportionately impacted by non-trade barriers due to their limited resources and all that, and also as well as access to information. So now to raise awareness on the reporting mechanism and encourage SMEs and even MSMEs to use the just to be involved in this, there's a platform called Trade Easier. So Trade Easier is let me just go ahead and paste a link here on the chat box. So Trade Easier will give you more information about, let me see if I pasted the right, Make African Trade helps. Yeah, so that's the link I'm talking about. So you can just go ahead and see how Trade Easier works. That will be able to give access to, to give you all the information with regard to reduction of tariffs and all that. Yes, so in regards to the tariffs, I'd want to give a short story. I love stories. So let me just get the name right. Meron Dagnew. Meron Dagnew is a lady, and last year she owns an Accra-based coffee and cocoa. She owns an Accra-based coffee farm, and she's a cocoa trader. So last year, in the course of last year, she was talking to one of the AFCFTA secretariats, and she was telling him that I couldn't wait. I need free trading in Africa to begin as quickly as possible. It will be so good for my business. And that was around August last year or so. So I know so many people and young people and SMEs are so eager to take advantage of reduced tariffs and even a consolidated market. And potential spin-offs from AFCFTA, and basically to expand the operations of their companies. So now I think the AFCFTA really comes in really handy in terms of the reducing tax tariffs and all that. I'm sure, I don't know if it's part of Edith's presentation, but basically it's all on that. So she hopes that she should be able to pay as much as 35% less on tariff on goods, and hopes that soon she can be able to take up the value-added coffee and cocoa to African countries without any problems of origin. Yeah, so basically AFCFTA eliminates tariffs on 90% of goods produced on the continent and tackles non-tariff barriers to trade and guarantees the free movement of persons. So in terms of sensitization and awareness, I'm seeing I have only 1 minute remaining. Let me just pause that timer because it's kind of making some noise. All right. 1 second. All right. So sorry for that. So yeah, I think some of the things that are going to affect the tariffs and all that are lack of infrastructure. For instance, there are some delays at the borders and all that. I actually have realized I have so much to share, but now that my time is almost up, I think I can just go ahead and share a bit of part in short. So I know, like I said, taxation is pretty much the life blood of every nation, and it's very key to financing attainment of the SDGs, of the SDGs. So basically, I think the taxation really matters for Africa integration, and can be used to accelerate the AFCFTA basically as a tool to cushion the revenue losses from trade, taxes, and all that. So I would say the youth, SMEs, and everyone needs to just join the trade, train, and provide leadership, not stay away. By providing leadership, I don't mean all those leadership titles and all that, but just being on the forefront of being exposing yourself and exposing ourselves to just about what AFCFTA is, and being able to look for those challenges, being able to throw in factoring where we can, being able to, just being a leader in itself, just going up there and looking for those opportunities and grabbing them by both hands. So basically, my call to action to African SMEs is to organize and educate themselves about AFCFTA, like I said, and be participants and not bystanders in this new African initiative, because it's a big deal and it's going to transform the economy of African countries. Yeah, so yeah, providing our own leadership, and we cannot afford to wait for others to lead us. We are the chosen leaders, and it's high time that we just put our feet forward to just go ahead and take up these opportunities and shine with them. Yes, and just a part in short, I like this quote from, let me just scroll down to that quote bit. So, just give me a minute. Yes, the youth need, it says, Nelson Mandela says, the youth need to join the train and provide leadership, not stay away. Like the popular saying, if you're not at the dinner table, you may be at the menu. After all, many countries are members of the AFCFTA. And what you need to do now, the first bit of the quote, yeah, so what you need to do now is just generally just act, getting to know the nitty-gritties around them and participating. And again, Nelson Mandela said, I hope that our choice on this matter reflects our hopes and not our fears. Yes, it's been Charity Mbithe. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Charity Mbithe, Instagram, Charity Mbithe, and check out what we do more at Lattice Consulting on www.lattice-consulting.com. Yes, thank you.
Charity, thank you so much. Indeed, if we slacken on these opportunities, someone else is coming and is going to take the opportunities away from us. But why should we wait until someone comes and takes them away from us? I'll be inviting our next panelist, Ayman Ahmed, who is a practitioner of e-commerce and advisory at the GIZ East Africa Community, e-commerce advisor and e-commerce initiative. She will be making her presentation next on that, and just to bring in a bit of IT stuff that's going on right now in Africa. I saw on Twitter the other day that Jack Dorsey's Twitter has set its Africa's base in Ghana, in Accra, Ghana. I don't know how we missed out on that as Kenya, but the story for another day. Ayman, the floor is yours. Karibu. And of course, we'll have another session where the panelists are going to give us their parting shots. And please bring your comments, bring your questions on the chat box. There, we'll be glad to read them. We are seeing the participation is growing, 70. It's not bad. Also, do tweet. We have all these instructions on the chat box. Karibu sana, Ayman.
Thank you so much, Brian. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Sure. You have your 10 minutes. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mm.
All right. So my name is Ayman Ahmed. I work for GIZ, Pan-African E-Commerce Initiative, which is basically a project that aims to improve framework conditions for small, medium enterprises to increase cross-border trade across different countries. And this particular project that I'm working on is focused on the East African community. So we're at stages of trying to develop a regional e-commerce strategy to be able to allow regulations and policies to be put in place to facilitate the movement, because without the regulations, even if there are traders who want to trade cross-border, might find it more difficult, minus the existing NTBs that are there already in traditional trade or traditional commerce. I'm pretty excited to be part of this panel because I've been fascinated by the aspect of youth and women, in particular in trade agreements, because we've had several trade agreements across the continent in form of RECs, like the East African community, for instance, but we've always found it very difficult to try and leverage the benefits for the youth. They're always disproportionately affected, even though they're the highest in number, youth and women. And the saddest part and aspect is the fact that they're the ones who own the SMEs, and they're the ones who are mostly affected by the NTBs in cross-border trade. Therefore, it becomes
Hello, Ayman. Ayman. Hello.
I think we have lost her connection.
Oh, okay. We want to register our sincere apologies to the viewers tuned in for that. I'm sure Ayman is working on resolving it. We'll be back with her, but I think as we wait, before we wait for the signal for her to come back, I think we could bring back Edith Jackie to continue, because
I think John Bosco is there.
Oh yeah, John Bosco is also with us. He'll be joining us. He'll be, of course, you know the ladies first, but John Bosco will be joining us. John Bosco, good to have you on board, sir. So one of you, some of you have requested that Edith Njage comes back. We want to now bring her back to walk us through the cross-border challenges and how to get across them. Edith, your 10 minutes start now.
I have 10 minutes. Guys, I'm a short and sweet person. I don't talk more than 5 minutes. But I think what I'll just focus on is, I think I had stopped off somewhere when I was talking about how this agreement essentially is there to reduce bureaucracy, right? So whenever you're having, again, let's not limit our minds, right? When we're thinking goods, or like trade, it's not just physical goods. You also have services. You also have what's it called? IP, intellectual property. So don't limit this agreement to just the physical, I am importing or exporting. Another thing that is also very common when we're talking about cross-border trade is that with the African continent, we have failed in that we have been sending our best. And when I say our best, I'm talking about raw materials. So we have been exporting our raw materials, like I said, mostly to external markets. Then what you find is being traded amongst us, that 18% that I alluded to earlier, is actually finished goods. So you'll find it's already set dresses or already completed laptops. Now Ghana, they're working on cars, and I'm so here for it. Ghana is thriving. Hey, East Africa, where we at? They just got Twitter HQ. We need to work on our game. We're slacking, guys. We're slacking. Let's get busy. But it's been a lot of trade in the sense of physical goods, but then completed goods. Now, what does that mean? It means that when you are sending your raw materials, which is actually more expensive and on higher demand, right? Our minerals, our coffee, our tea, our whatever, if we're mostly shipping that outside, then we're losing on that. And earlier I was listening to the other speaker, and she was talking about investment, right? So when we're saying cross-border trade, investment is part of that trade. I think something that we really need to be aware of with this agreement, or a shortcoming of the agreement, is that the truth is a lot of our investment comes from abroad, okay? And I'm not talking about the investment that we know. We know some people in our country have been very busy borrowing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about as founders, as business owners, nobody go and say that I said that, but as founders, as business owners, can we please get into the space of, you guys didn't know as a comedian, it's a side hustle, no, not really. But as business owners, we need to get into the space of understanding, when we're talking about investment, okay, when you're fundraising, when you're trying to get capital, when you're scaling up, right? When you're looking for a way to fund a project, a lot of us, we immediately clock and think, aha, the Western man, you know, the white man, am I getting it from Europe? Am I getting it from the USA? Where am I getting my investment from? And part of what I have been so passionate about is getting Africans, where are your funds? Where is your money? Okay, don't just buy real estate. That is why SMEs are suffering. That is why you have business ideas that are dying, because they cannot get capital. But wewe umenda ukanunua kaplot, you have bought your land, you have been busy investing in the tangible, because that's what we've been taught. We've been taught invest how? Buy land, buy a house. But where are the African angel investors? Where are the African VCs? Where are the people who have accumulated wealth and are using that to support businesses? So when we're talking about investment, the unfortunate thing with this agreement is that it does not provide for investment cross-border to happen amongst us, where you have a Rwandan that's investing in a Congo person's business, or you have a Nigerian investing in a Ugandan's business. So how do we then fix that? Because at the end of the day, even if we are trading and we're making money, which we will, okay, even if 30 million people are getting out of poverty, which they will, where is the money going? Because when we get investment, right, let's say we get $240 billion in a year, the truth is we pay back 500. You guys know how much we'll be paying. We'll be paying the Chinese, we'll be paying the Americans. We're always paying these people, right? And not just paying in the public sense, also private business, right? Because I work with entrepreneurs, and a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with, unfortunately, when they come and say, Edith, I need investment, where am I taking them? Of course, I'm going to take them to the white man, because where are the Africans, where are the Kenyans that have set aside money to invest into businesses? So that's the only shortfall when we say cross-border investments. I think another thing I'll also point out to that's really important that we know is that this agreement, okay, let me be frank, it's going to favor certain countries over others, okay? Let me tell you the truth. I don't know if the agreement told you, I don't know if Brian told you, I don't know if you probably don't know, but it will favor the fastest countries. What do I mean? The countries that jump on the agreement the quickest, and also the countries that are the most lucrative. So you have countries like the big dogs in Africa, okay? We know that they are big dogs, okay? There's the Egypt, the Nigeria, the South, Kenya, we're somewhere, okay? We're a bit sizable, okay? So there are certain dogs, okay, or people or countries that will benefit faster just because they have, when we're saying trade, they have a lot ready for them to trade, you know? When we're saying services, when we're saying IP, that's the knowledge bag, okay? And Kenyans, I don't know if you know this, but you're among the smartest people in this continent. I've studied with a lot of people, and let me tell you, no one can beat a Kenyan in class. I don't know what they gave us with the KCPE, the KCSE, but we were on the grind, you know. Even South Africans, guys, they can't compete. So there's a way that our education system has worked for us so that we're more knowledgeable. Even as you look at the literacy percentages, there are certain countries that will gain faster. This thing is about fast mover advantage, okay? No, don't sell drugs. I saw that in the code. Don't do that, okay, kids? You can do legit business and thrive, okay? Thank you very much. But I just saw that in the comments. Let me shut that one down. And you tell Uhuru I shut it down so that he sends me a commission for that. But part of what I want you to understand is fast mover advantage. Even as a business owner, there are certain entities that will gain very quickly over others. Why has Twitter come and done what it's done at the time that it's done it? Smart, okay? Why are companies like Ariel for Africa, right? Guys, we just opened our 7th and 8th market. We're not slacking, you know. If you're asleep, I don't know, me, Edith, guys, I'm wide awake. Like, my alarm clock has been on, okay? So it needs business owners to understand, how do I take advantage of this agreement? Is it to set up franchises? Is it strategic partnerships? So franchises is where you have a business incorporated here, you pay someone else, or you come up with an agreement for them to set up a version in their own country, depending on the uniqueness of your business. The other thing you can also have is strategic partnerships. You send the Ugandan business, they send you business. You send the Zimbabwean business, they send you business. And it goes, you know, across. So that's what we mean by cross-border, okay? Now this thing of tariffs, let me also allude to that a bit. The truth is, it will not be proportional. So you will have countries that will still be easier than others. What do I mean? The delay and the cost will always be different depending on the country. There are some countries where they'll be like, well, you know, Rwanda, guys, even Rwanda, they're busy. Hey, they're busy. But Rwanda is like, no, come, everybody come in. Same thing for Ghana, you know, so it's easy in terms of those sort of border restraints. But then when you're looking at other countries where they still there, or you have to bribe, you know, they still there holding your person, or if it's a truck at the border for 3 days, you know, or 10 days, or God knows what. So you have to be very, very aware of each country, even if this agreement is there, even if people have signed, they've ratified, they've gone, they've told everybody, they're doing educational forums like this. At the end of the day, Africans will always be Africans. We will never have the same standard because we're so different, which is also okay, and it's also good. So the thing to remember is to also keep that in mind in terms of the different delays per country. And then the other thing is the issues of terrorism. Okay, let me tell you the truth. Terrorism, religious interference, imbalances in growth, like I've said, and then lack of knowledge. So number one, people don't, or the Wanjiko, the Wanjiros, do they actually know what it means to take advantage of this agreement and how it can boost their business? Do they actually know the tax implications? Do they know what the tariffs are like? Do they know how to do that reporting? Are they aware? Are they being guided? You know, a lot of business owners, you're out there, you're trying to do business on your own. Friend, you will fail, okay? You will get into trouble. Why? Because as a business owner, you must be in a community of other businesses, which is something I've been very passionate about. But other things, like I've said, the religious intolerance, the terrorism, you know, that will be there. Now that it's basically an open area, and the goal is, I know in future they want us to have the AU passport, so not the Kenyan, the dark blue, you know, now we're getting the maroon, the African passport, you know, looking good, guys. You don't know who is South African, who is Ghana, and who is, you know, everyone, we're the same, okay? We're the same. Who's Moroccan, guys, we're all together. So there's that, and then also having airlines, you know, fly all over the continent. So again, this agreement will set the stage of Africa being a continent, like coming together, that unification. But again, remember, there are other people like the Eritreans who are like, no, guys, we don't want to do this. You know, we're not here, not in your WhatsApp group. So again, there's also that element. But I hope it has made sense in terms of in terms of just understanding how to take advantage and how to understand that infrastructure may be different, right? So again, like I'm saying, there are going to be people that will benefit. So even us, we have very good infrastructure as Kenyans, you know. I know some of the money that's borrowed does not always go there, but some of it has gone there. And we have some very good roads, some very good rails. We have some things that are working for us. But when you compare Central Africa, okay, and I'm not sure if there are any Central African people here, they have a lot of infrastructure issues. And the worst part is they're slam in the middle. So even if we're saying this is free trade, how are you moving? Like, how are you getting track from South Africa, for example, if that's what you're doing, and you're trying to get to, let's say, West Africa? Because at the end of the day, there are roadblocks like that. So infrastructure is a major problem as well. So I think I will leave it at that, Brian.
Thank you so much, Edith, for being candid and saying that others will onboard quickly, but others will also play catch up. Of course, we want to congratulate particularly Tanzania for, you know, bringing in 3 planes earlier today, though that announcement was made by the Tanzania Airlines, which is, you know, bringing together East Africa as one big trade unit. And of course, those are so many other infrastructural issues that are being addressed in terms of ensuring connectability of the East African states and the coalitions and everything that's going on. I also want to mention, thank you for mentioning that it's not just about tangible goods we are talking about here. We also want to talk about things like services. There's a lot of opportunity for English traders, English teachers of English in Angola. A lot of that. South Africa has just ratified, has just inculcated Kiswahili into their curriculum. And so there are a lot of opportunities for Kiswahili teachers there. If there are any person who did education here, then that is an opportunity you should look out to how we are plugging in. But we're going to share on that in the near future, just right here on this broadcast. I want to bring back Ayman, who had dropped out. Good to see you, Council Nelson Vujeri Mandela. Good to see you. Karibu sana. I want to bring back Ayman, who was making her presentation before we lost her, perhaps due to network issues. Ayman, welcome back.
Thanks, Brian.
All right.
And I apologize. My internet is a bit unstable.
All right.
So please bear with me. Yeah. So as I had introduced myself, I am Ayman Ahmed, and I work for GIZ, the Pan-African E-Commerce Initiative. I'm super excited to be part of this panel. As I can see, my fellow speakers are very enthusiastic and very passionate from the private sector. But I'm very interested in bringing a different perspective because I come from the policy side, and AFCFTA is a fascinating agreement. It's a very special agreement for Africa. It's unique in the sense that, like it was previously mentioned, it's going to be the biggest trade area in the world. And this has so much potential. We need to understand that it's not only us in Africa who are looking at the AFCFTA. We have other countries outside that are looking at the AFCFTA as well. That kind of makes it dangerous for the companies that are on the continent. So there are certain things I would like to address from the policy perspective and just bring a new dynamic so that the youth together collectively, we could push for an agreement that works for us, that works for a context and is going to benefit us greatly than those who are coming into the continent to invest from other continents or other countries. And the first thing I would like to touch upon is government commitment. We can see that with the AFCFTA, we've had governments being very enthusiastic and pushing the agenda. But it's not the first time we've seen something similar in Africa. We have so many RECs on the continent that are performing, you know, it's not up to the standard that they should be performing. The EAC has been in existence for 20 years, but we're trying to see where's the contribution to the youth. How is it that Kenya and Tanzania are still blocking each other's trade, but still intensively trading with Europe, trading with China? And these are questions that are very important to understand before we get too excited about the CFTA, because the same thing could repeat itself if governments are not committed. So it's important first to understand what governments need to do to be able to leverage the AFCFTA and take full advantage of it. Because just having the political will on paper, signing agreements, and speaking enthusiastically about it at different conferences is not what's going to get you to be able to leverage the AFCFTA. It takes a lot more than that. And first and foremost, as a previous speaker Edith mentioned, the government has to work on the infrastructure. Currently in the East African region, the price of a good, the logistic cost in the price of a good is almost 40 to 70%. It's cheaper for you to ship something from the United States to East Africa than to ship from maybe Tanzania to Sudan. And that way we cannot leverage the AFCFTA if we do not tackle these first and foremost issues. It's just going to be something that we discuss, we meet and have conferences, and at the end of the day, nothing moves, nobody can trade. Maybe I should just mention something interesting that I came across early this year when the AFCFTA came into force on the 1st of January. People started trading, but the fascinating thing is there are some people who are calling their respective trade desks in their countries asking, is the agreement enforced because we cannot use it? I think someone's mic is unmuted.
We kindly request that you keep your mic on mute.
Yeah. So it's basically the government has to commit not only in paper, but they have to actually start moving stuff, start investing heavily in infrastructure. Yes, we can see that there's some countries that are trying to do that, but then again, we're one continent. It's a lot cheaper for us if we collaborate. And I know there's some BRICS that are intensively collaborating on infrastructure projects, and we can see the outcome of it. A few years later, we have roads, and East Africa, I could say, we're proud to say that it's a bit more connected than it used to be. There's more roads. And just a couple of days ago, Tanzania and Uganda are signing a deal for an oil pipeline. So those types of infrastructure would actually significantly reduce the cost, because right now on the continent, that's the biggest challenge, the cost of trade. And hence why we have a lot of trade facilitation measures. And then another thing is for governments to commit, they have to think of the trade facilitation measures that they have in place. And I'm sorry if this is going to get a little bit too technical, but maybe we should try to understand these issues, like, let's say, trade facilitations in the way governments have notified under different categories. The trade facilitation agreement, in effect, cannot be implemented in Africa. So again, you ask, how are we going to move trade? Should the AFCFTA come with a mechanism for facilitating trade? Because currently, they want to leverage on the trade facilitation agreement of the WTO. So there's that aspect that governments also need to come together and address, because issues like NTBs will never be resolved in Africa if we don't have trade facilitation measures that speak to the context of Africa. And then another thing is this agreement has been a very high-level agreement. I was lucky enough to hear about it when I was doing my master's program in school, but I don't know if otherwise I would have heard about it until after the negotiations were concluded. So then it begs the question, how inclusive was the process in talking to different businesses and consulting with them and knowing exactly what they need and what is reflected in the final draft of the agreement? Because if you compare the text of the AFCFTA and the text of the WTO, they're pretty much similar. And the WTO agreement has never worked for Africa. So what is it that exactly we're trying to do? And in a sense right now, because we're discussing the youth, the automatics, the benefits that accrue from the AFCFTA for the youth are not automatic. Governments have to come together and find a mechanism to integrate the youth into the agreement after it has already been negotiated and concluded. So it's going to make this whole process a bit tricky. It can be done. And the only way it can be done is for us youth to try and sensitize each other as much as possible on different issues, on ways we can take advantage of this agreement. And, you know, anything that has been drafted that is on paper, even though it could restrict businesses, if you come together collectively, there's a way you could find around the problem. And that's the beauty of
we request you to please keep your mics on mute. Sorry. Thank you so much. I'll throw a spanner in the works. Do you think the installation of Okonjo Iweala as Director General of WTO places Africa close to the heart of WTO, places Africa rather closer to WTO? I don't know what you think about that, but I'll just throw it there for you.
That's an interesting point. And I mean, we can be optimistic. We could say, yes, she could do something about it, but you need to also understand essentially that at the WTO level, it's about, it's a very transparent and inclusive process, and every country has a voice. But we need to understand that there are others who are more equal than others. It's like the African group, for instance, we all have to like literally hold on to each other to be able to push through an agenda. Like Tanzania on its own cannot push an agenda at the WTO, versus like, let's say a country like America, whatever they say could, fly. So, I mean, I think, yes, she could try and push for some, she could try and push Africa's agenda ahead in some aspects, but then in other aspects, I think it would just really come down to the priorities of different countries and how they can band together to push for their agenda. But I don't see as one person being able to fully push that agenda ahead.
All right, your parting shot in 30 seconds, please, as we bring in other people.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Let me just wrap it up. I mentioned the point on sensitization. It's very important because I can assure you, even with the RECs that exist on the continent, like the EAC, I mean, you could just step outside the EAC and find vendors on the street and ask them, what is the EAC? They have no clue. And EAC has been around for a really long time. So with the AFCFTA, they have to find a very strong strategy for trying to sensitize people, particularly the businesses who need to take advantage of the AFCFTA. And then there's issues of transparency. I think when it comes to trade, it's never really transparent. And that's why with small cross-border traders who are particularly youth and women are disproportionately affected because they do not have access to information. They don't know that maybe there's a certificate, a simplified rules of origin that they could use to fast track their movement across borders. So this kind of increases the cost of trade to them. And then finally, maybe one thing I would just like to touch upon is the issue of intra-Africa trade. We keep hearing that intra-Africa trade is low and AFCFTA is going to boost it. But we also need to understand that AFCFTA will not automatically do that. There's issues that need to be addressed at national level, like what is your industrial policy? Because boosting inter-Africa trade means that you're going to be producing more that you'll be sending to other countries. So what is the strategy in each respective country to boost the trade? Or in a REC, for instance, are you vastly producing different stuff? Because we've seen that in the African continent, most countries produce the same stuff. Then it becomes difficult to trade because I cannot sell to you bananas if I'm producing bananas, you're producing bananas. We have to find a way to diversify, to find countries that can specialize in producing certain areas and creating value chains on the continent. I think that's the only way the AFCFTA could be successful. I apologize if I've gone beyond my time, but yeah, that's what I would I wanted to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you. You've mentioned bananas, and Kenyan bananas are actually doing quite well in Uganda, actually, Uganda, because they sell it in another form. We sell it as a fruit here. They sell it as, they consume it as matoke, what we call matoke in Kenya. But at this point, thank you so much, Ayman Omar, for that powerful presentation. Ayman is a consultant at GIZ East Africa on matters e-commerce. I now want to bring in Prudence Sebastian, the Chief Technical Advisor of Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement at the and Head of Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement at the Africa Unit. We want to bring him on board. Welcome, sir. We recognize your presence. Would like you to say a word or two to us young people of East Africa. We can see around 67 people are now listening to you, sir. Over to you.
Good afternoon, Brian. Good afternoon, colleagues. Everyone, good afternoon. How are you? And thank you very much for allowing me to speak at this very important forum of youth in leadership for East Africa. Let me start by appreciating this initiative. I think I've been in touch with your colleagues, Moses and Johannes, to know that there is an ongoing campaign to engage youth across Africa on the AFCFTA process. And this is very encouraging on my side. as a person who's been coordinating the FCFTA process. Yes, you mentioned it. I've been coordinating the FCFTA negotiations since 2015. And everything that you can see in the news, of course, is a result of hardworking people across the continent, hardworking people from governments, the chief negotiators, hardworking people from African Union Commission, and hardworking people from FCFTA Secretariat. So let me mention about two things which I've just learned from Omar's presentation. When I joined the meeting, Omar was raising two important issues. And one of those was inclusiveness of the process. This is not the first time I'm being asked the same question, whether people have been involved in the negotiation process. And this one, I have to answer it so that it is very much clear to everyone of you to understand that no one was excluded from FCFTA process right from the beginning. It was only an issue of awareness. The way negotiations are conducted, they are led by governments. That's the nature. And governments are also represented by chief negotiators, who are mainly trade experts. But when you represent a country in a negotiation forum, you are not representing your personal interests. You are representing the interest of a country, and the interest of a country are based on interest of stakeholders. So we have been encouraging all countries throughout the process to make sure that they involve a wide spectrum of stakeholders at national level to ensure that they bring on negotiation table a country position that includes all the views and ideas of all stakeholders, be it private sector, civil society, women, youth of the population. And at our level as African Union, we have tried to organize a number of stakeholders engagement events just to create awareness, because we knew we could not take any position on the negotiation process. The positions are for countries, but at least we could create awareness among a big number of people to ensure that they challenge their respective governments on what they want to achieve in the FCFTA negotiations. So it's not too late. It's good that you have such an initiative. You still have a role to play. The FCFTA Secretariat is now less than 1 year old. And one of the priorities of the Secretary General, His Excellency Wamkelemene, is to comprehensively bring youth on board, to the extent that the FCFTA Secretariat will even have a dedicated office for youth. So don't miss that opportunity. The second aspect that I want to also comment on is on who is involved in implementation of the FCFTA agreement. The FCFTA agreement, even if it is negotiated by government, at the end, it belongs to the people. It belongs to the people in terms of implementing it. It also belongs to the people in terms of who benefit from it. So there are a number of opportunities there that will be brought forward by the FCFTA, which I may not go through for now. But what I have to tell you at this point in time is that governments do not trade. Us who sit in the offices, we don't trade. We can be experts on trade, theoretically, but we do not trade. So it's up to you to identify opportunities in the FCFTA agreement and start trading across the continent, applying or using the FCFTA provisions that are favorable for your business. So I would be happy to see most of you who have the chance, at least the first Africans to know more about FCFTA, to be connected to FCFTA process. I would be happy to see you coming up with businesses, some doing trade, others investing in industrialization, others doing any other enterprises that will benefit the continent. So in terms of implementation, I will mention that the FCFTA belongs to the people. It belongs to you. It belongs to the private sector. It belongs to people who are doing business. So you are in the leadership, as I can see, but you can also be in business. And you know better what leadership means. So when you lead in what you are doing, you are a leader. So you can also lead in business. So moderator, I don't know how much time I was given. That's why I was just saying a few words in terms of introducing myself, and I will continue to follow the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those sentiments. We really appreciate your presence here with us. We've been the person who's been speaking to us is Mr. Prudence Sebahizi. He has been the man really at the top of all this since 2015, as you've heard him mention, just negotiating and trying to find a basis in all these things. I'm seeing your questions are flying in the chat box, and we really appreciate that because we want to go into a very interactive session. But before then, we want to let in John Bosco. John Bosco is one of our panelists today. He's coming in last but not least, of course. He is a trade economist, acting director of trade policy and trade facilitation at Trademark East Africa. I once interviewed his CEO, Mr. Frank Matzat, and he was a brilliant, great guy in responding to the questions that we put to him from KTN. Someone has asked in the chat box, what is being done currently to raise awareness of Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement? That is why we are here today, and we'll continue this conversation. But now, ladies and gentlemen, let's listen in to the presentation by John Bosco Kalisa. Karibu, sir.
Asante, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me first of all thank the youth leadership team for this exciting session. And really, it is very exciting when you hear an entrepreneur like Judith, Omar, my brother Prudence. This is an exciting moment for the Africa. It is an exciting moment for East Africa. I had Omar, my colleague from GIZ, mentioning about the policy environment and why the intra-regional trade is not growing. Let me say that East Africa, we are taking the lead. And this is the right moment in terms of exploiting the opportunities provided by CFTA. My colleagues, the first presenters highlighted a number of potential benefits for CFTA. You look at the population, 1.3 billion people. You are looking at the GDP of 3.5 trillion US dollars. It is the world's largest free trade area. And for Africa, this is really an important milestone, an important achievement. It is an ambitious agreement. Of course, my colleagues highlighted a number of challenges, but it's the right time now for us to work together as a team, as organization, in terms of concerted efforts to address those barriers that have been identified. I may mention, and my colleague may echo to that, Prudence, especially the first step, the first phase of the agreement, where we are looking at the free movement of goods and services. So the negotiation has advanced. The trading happened come January this year. We are looking at a number of exciting products now moving across the region. Of course, Omar did mention about NTB. There are enormous NTBs within the region and within the continent. But the beauty is that now we are prepared. The level of preparedness, as my colleague Prudence mentioned, is very high. We are at a high gear. And you compared to other agreements, this is the first agreement where youth and women are very much involved from the initial beginning of the agreement. So it is very exciting to see that, of course, there are ambitious targets, as mentioned. How can we grow intra-regional trade from the current 18% to 52.3% within the 10 years? That to happen, of course, there are a number of homework that need to be done at the level of preparedness. We need to game up our infrastructure development. We need to have policies and programs in place. And I'm happy that, especially my organization where I'm working with UNECA, they have started supporting countries in terms of developing their country strategies. And those country strategies take into cognizant the role of youth, the role of women, in terms of what they are going to benefit from this agreement. So I picked some points from, and this is really very exciting on my side, from Edith, where she was saying that those who are ready are going to benefit than others. They may say that all the countries now, a number of countries, again, given the number, 36 so far, that have ratified, all countries are preparing themselves to benefit. No country should be left behind. And the agreement provides for inclusiveness in terms of how countries can benefit, how private sector can benefit, how women can benefit, how youth can benefit. It is the right moment that we look back in terms of where did we not do well, how can we try to address those challenges. So the policy environment, I would say that is now conducive, it is ripe for countries to start trading. There was an issue that was brought again, raised by Edith in terms of the product diversification. And I think when you look at the CFTA, of course, most of the countries that are advanced in terms of manufactured products may benefit more, perhaps more than those that have not developed their industrial area. But there is something we call in economics that countries have imperfect products, meaning that coffee produced in Rwanda and the same coffee produced in Kenya, they are homogeneous products, but they are differentiated by the taste of the consumer, by packaging, by standards, by labeling. So those are some of the issues we need to dig deeper and support our SMEs, small and medium enterprises, support the youth in terms of navigating through those complex standards, complex sanitary and phytosanitary measures. So in my view that this is the right moment, and I think I really want to congratulate the Youth Lead initiative that you are taking the first step, the first move advantage to raise awareness to our youth, to our SMEs, to ensure they take advantage of this agreement. So I will take up some other questions, but I'm very excited and I will respond to some of the questions that will be raised. Over, Brian.
All right, thank you so much. John Bosco, we've been speaking to John Bosco rather has been speaking to us on some of the modalities that will enable trade across the Africa Continental Free Trade, under the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. We now want to dive deep into the crossfire, the question and answer. And I'm seeing all your questions are coming in. Let me say it like Jeff Koinange, thick and fast. So Karakacha Leonard, I've seen your comment right there. Thank you so much. Dennis Kamau will also be responding to your questions. Meanwhile, we'd want you to also go out and tweet live on Twitter, hashtag after youth inclusion, after youth inclusion. Please tag at YouLead Africa. Africa, the K is with the C is with K-A. Yeah, it is the sound K. Yeah, exactly. Is it a sound really? Yes. Yeah, and tag EAC underscore YAP. We'd love to send this conversation out there so that we create more awareness. Of course, yes, Frank has already tagged, has already pasted the hashtag right there, after youth inclusion. We'd want you to ask questions. We'd want you to interact with us on this. So I want to post this question to Edith from Karakacha Leonard. Edith, Karakacha is asking, as youth residing at the border of Kenya and Uganda, how has AfCFTA enhanced free trade? For instance, if I have interest in investing in Uganda, yet I'm Kenyan. 1 minute, please, Edith, for that.
Okay, let me look. So the first thing I want us to understand, right, is this agreement, right? This agreement is not is not like a government, it's not a person. Can we please understand that? We are the agreement. Whether or not this agreement works, and I think Ayman talked about it, whether or not this agreement works is all dependent on our ability, right, as business owners, as people in private or public sector, to actually make this a reality. And how I'm going to address this is, think about it this way, right? And I think the person from the AU alluded to this. This agreement is not for government, okay? It is for private sector. It is not. It's not going to come and stand at the border physically and allow you to pass, right? It is not coming to literally be a check and balance to actually make sure that things are done. And this is why it's very important as young people to understand what this agreement means for me. Now, when you're talking about investment, I do not see how investment would need you to per se move to Uganda. I believe we're in a very digital society, and I say this as a person who works with young people in 12 African countries, right? I don't think you need to be so worried about that sort of invest, unless you mean you're investing in a good and you want to move that good to Uganda, right? So just be aware of this, right? 90% of goods, you should not be paying tariffs on them, right? So it's to go and look through the agreement and find out, am I a part of this 90%? Is my product here? If it's just investment of money, then that's a completely different story, because I think you can just do a direct transfer. But also for people to understand that the agreement is you. Do you know your rights? The same way the Constitution is you. Do you know your rights? The same way your identification is you. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper that should apply to the entire continent, but is not a must. You know what I mean? Sure. So there's nothing that the agreement can do to make sure that it's easy for you to do things in Uganda. What can happen is for you to understand where your investment, your goods, services, etc. lie in the agreement, what it means for you in terms of tariffs, what it means for you in terms of taxes, and then using that knowledge when you get to the border, if you must, and using that to your advantage and making sure that you know your facts, you know your backing, and you can say, okay, so this is how I am able to do 1, 2, 3. These are the things my drivers can or cannot be told. These are the sorts of regulations. This is why they should not bribe, because they have the right to. Right? So I think it's being aware of your rights, making sure that everyone in your organization is aware and implementing that. I think that's how I would address that. And I hope I have.
Thank you so much, Edith. We are having more questions. Thank you so much.
Maybe Brian, I wanted to just, I just want to compliment to Edith. And I think let's also dive deeper, especially simplifying this. In terms of the phases for negotiation. There was the first phase of negotiation, which covered goods and 5 priority service sectors. These sectors are financial services, communication, transport, tourism, and professional services. Those are within the first phase, that is what has been negotiated. And UDIS has clearly and Ebre mentioned about 90% of goods that meets the rules of origin can be traded. But there is a second phase which encompasses investment. It is investment, competition, and intellectual property. Then there is a third phase which covers e-commerce. So those are the phases of the agreement where, again, the team and everyone need to dive deeper and look at, when I want to establish myself and invest in Uganda, what are the preconditions for investment? But at the moment, if you are trading, we are trading in terms of goods and services. Of course, in terms of services, there are what we call modes of supply of those services. And those modes of supply need to be exhausted. So within investment, it is within the second phase where the investment, perhaps also Prudence may comment on that. Investment negotiations are coming into the second phase. Over Brian.
All right, thank you so much, John Bosco, for clarifying on those ones. So what are the another point from Dennis Kamau, another question, what are the information access points for the youth to be able to understand AFTA and finance? I think we'll I'll give that to Ayman. And as Ayman prepares to do that, we also want to give a bit of more information on the market access for the goods and all that. I want to share the screen just a little so that we may be able to see. This page here is called SI Trade. The page you are now seeing on your screen, it is called SI Trade. It's an opportunity index page where you are able to see what opportunities exist where and at what point, all right? So you're able to see if you're into manufacturing, you just come here into the commodity section and you look at things like, let's say, you search whatever product it is you're selling. I'll just be very brief because of time, and I need to also give more time to my panelists. And also, you also indicate where the product is from. Of course, if you're from Algeria, Angola, Benin, you are able to see the kind of demand, all right? It is a more of a market analytics tool across Africa. Then let's now take it global. Let's now take it worldwide. So this one here is called Market Analyst Tool. It's called in ITC. ITC, it is International Trade Center. So here you are able to see a lot of the market trends, what is being consumed at what particular market across the world. You're able even to see the locations where these products are in demand, and you're able to see what volumes you can supply and what amount of even services equally. So if you come here, you're able to create your account, you register, and then it is actually free to all. That is the ITC. Same to the other one, SI Trade Africa. So those ones, do note them down. I'll also copy paste and share the links on the comment section. Let me now let in Ayman to respond to that question concerning the points of access of information. How do they get the document? How is it going to be broken down to them? How do we create more awareness? Ayman, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Ayman?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know, for some reason I can't mute my, I can't start my video, but if it's okay, I'll just respond like that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so in terms of getting information to the AFCFTA, maybe I should just quickly point out that the AFTA protocols are available online. You can download them, although they're rather complex agreements to understand. So maybe easy to go through websites like Tralac. They try and simplify these things and give like an overview with infographics that is pretty helpful. But moving on to if AFCFTA has a mechanism for awareness creation in itself, at the moment, I am not aware of that per se, but I am also aware that AFCFTA Secretariat has partnered up with different development agencies, like for instance, GIZ or UNDP, to either establish platforms for engagement. So the one under GIZ is they're seeking to establish a youth engagement platform to be able to discuss the different issues related to AFCFTA under the different phases of negotiations, and for them to be able to give their input. However, this platform is not yet operational. And then at the EAC level, there's the SG Forum EAC that basically brings youth together every year. And they can basically, whatever challenges they're facing, because they always have to be taken up at the AFCFTA level through their national government. So they would give their recommendations to the Secretary General, who would then take it to the partner states, and the partner states would then revert to the AFCFTA and take a certain position. Great. Now, because the SG forum only happens once a year, the reason why they want to start these digital platforms is to first and foremost push the digital agenda ahead. The world is becoming more digital, and also to try and avoid that big gap of a whole year where people have to stay with their grievances until the next time they meet with the SG. So so far, I just know that there are some platforms that are in the works. And there are some different programs that are to do with financing. Again, the AFCFTA doesn't do financing per se, but then they could partner with these development corporations that could have programs for providing funding. So under EAC, for instance, GIZ has the IDEA program, and just recently they had a call for proposals. So people who have pitch ideas in different sectors that are important to the EAC could come forward, put their proposals ahead, and then see if they can get funding from up to, I think, 20,000 euros and above, depending on your needs. So the funding programs are there. They're just not under our governments or the AFCFTA. They're usually development corporation funded. I hope that answers your question.
Pretty much so. And we hope you're going to share the documents and the websites to access them. Frank,
absolutely.
Perhaps we could, as a bonus, we could also share the document with the participants here. I don't know, because their mails are on the registration, so we could just mass mail them. That said, though it's about Africa, there's a question by Maril Yehunu. It's quite a mouthful name. Though it's about Africa, I'm hearing more about Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania. So do we also have representatives from other parts of Africa on the panel? Marielle, my simple answer is yes, it's about Africa. But the emphasis today was on East Africa Community because it was organized by East Africa Community and ULEAD. However, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement encompasses the whole of Africa, and currently 36 countries have ratified, and 54 rather out of 55 have confirmed. We are going to get the difference between confirmation and ratification from our panelists, which is why I want to pick the next question from Sam Abuya.
Maybe Brian, I can highlight more.
Please.
Thank you. I think I had replied. I had replied it in the chat.
Okay.
We are having regional consultation all over Africa. And we started with the Central Africa and followed by North and the Horn of Africa. Now we are having the East Africa. That's why you are seeing East Africa is well represented. 2 weeks from now, we'll be having West Africa and Southern Africa, and we will end with continental, like what we are doing now. We'll have one continental. Maybe also, Brian, allow me before you pick another one. I appreciate also our panelists, Prudence, Jeb, John Bosco, Ayman, Charity, and Edith. And also we have a poll question. And as we go on, maybe before we go for this interaction, you can raise your hand on the chat. You raise because we have experts here. We have Mr. Prudence, who has been top of it. We have John Bosco, who handles trade policies and trade facilitation in East Africa. So allow me here, if I can interject, Brian, I call Mr. Franklin, my colleague, to put a poll question. As we are interacting, you can answer. I didn't introduce myself. I am called Moses, and I am in Arusha at the Youth Leadership Program Secretariat, and I am one of the project lead. I work as the regional coordinator for youth in business, trade and enterprise, and we are happy to be with you. It's not a workshop, it's not a conference, it's interaction. Ask your question, let the answer be given to you. When we identify gaps in these consultations, we will forward them to AU offices, which is Prudence, where he works. And allow me also to recognize the people we are implementing this project with, which is GIZ, African Union, Training Center for Development Cooperation, and East African Youth Ambassadors and other collaborating entities. So Franklin, if you can put a poll question, then we continue with question and answer. Let people raise their hands, let them ask. Franklin.
Yep, it's on. Thank you.
You can take them through.
The figure it out, I think. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly, as we continue with the interaction with our panelists, And as we hand it over to George, you can just take a moment, scroll through the poll. It's found on your user interface, or it should be on your screen right now. Just take a moment. Thank you. I even see some of you. Awesome. Already filling in. Amazing. So let's continue with the interaction. Back to you, Brian, George.
All right, that is the poll questions are being done in order to establish a needs assessment so that we know how we can take this conversation forward. Somebody had asked about how we are planning to reach out to the African youth to be able to be aware about AfCFTA. One of those methods is this one. We're also trying to broker a partnership between ULEAD, between EAC, and of course AfCFTA, the mother of the organizations, so that we have some bit of shows on TV too. Being the journalist I am, we want to have that so that we relate at a more personalized level. And we are privileged to still have the presence of Prudence Sebahizi, who is the regional overseer of the AfCFTA. And I just want to pose this question to him. This has been asked by Sam Abuya. Africa is largely fragmented ethnically and is home to some of the world's most protracted armed insurgencies. He's talking about the heterogeneity of the African states and how the issues of conflict and security and political violence issues, where young people are highly used. What is the panelists' comment on this or in relation to AfCFTA and the youth? We want you to respond to that in a minute, please.
May I attempt? This is a very interesting question when you link security with with poverty. First of all, you have to understand what is the root cause. What is the root cause of wars that we have across the continent? And the first explanation that we get is always about survival. It's about survival. It's about economic survival of those young people who are involved in a rebellion. Because if they had economic activities that will keep them busy, I'm quite sure they will not accept to live in that kind of life that is not easy at all. That's number one. Number two, you can also look at the cause of wars among the 2 or 3 countries. It's always a fight against resources. It's a fight against resources because maybe resources have not been distributed well across the borders, or the laws that are in place have not been clear enough. So
is it just me or we're losing him?
To security,
okay.
Saying that when goods and services do not cross borders, the soldiers will. So meaning that if goods and services are not crossing borders properly, or if they are not allowed to cross borders, then the soldiers will cross borders. So I think the root cause of wars is sometimes those restrictions that we see on borders, which do not allow the equitable distribution of resources. Other colleagues can also supplement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prudence, for that. If there are any other comments, kindly just list them or the same question. I want to take a few other questions. I think we'll take a lot of them and assign to the panelists, and then we just continue and answer so that I don't have to interrupt every other time. Thank you. At Mariel, we have regional consultations. That is from Kasije Moses. They are responding to Mariel's question, having regional consultations that will cover the whole of Africa. We are done with Central Africa, North and the Horn of Africa. I think today is East Africa, next week will be West Africa. The conversation continues, of course, across Africa. We are getting another question. Hi, my name is Daniel from Restless Development, Tanzania. Tanzania, good to have you on board. I would like to know, as a youth, how does this agreement provide an assurance for me that if I was to ever go to invest in a neighboring country, in terms of safety permits and access to markets? I think the issue of safety and security is being reiterated by a lot of our panel, a lot of our members of the audience. I'll ask John Bosco to respond to that later on after we take up a couple more questions as I assign to the panelists so that they'll just be taking them in a continuous manner. Will this only help the financially empowered youths? That is from Gary Frida. Charity, you'd respond to that. Will this only help the financially empowered youth? And then Mariel, good. Mariel is responding to the question that was responded to by Moses. Emmanuel Saulo, would love to know where you're writing from, but you're saying, since we are all talking about EAC, how many countries in East Africa have so far ratified the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement? Of course, I'll also get John Bosco to respond to that. We'll have to take a couple more for some youth. That is from John Ajong March. Karibu sana, I believe from South Sudan, sir. I believe so. So for some African youth, if not all, to fully participate in AFTA and its inclusions, there is need to do extensive youth awareness, especially those in conflict-affected countries. Youth are always the subject. How do we really go by the awareness given the conflicts that are making the cross-border business difficult? Of course, that will be responded to by Mr. John Bosco, who is one of our panelists here. And I'll take the last one. Hello, my name is Sumaya Harub. I'm from Zanzibar, Tanzania. Hey, Tanzania again. Thank you for tuning in. My question is, what is the guarantee of Africa to be able to help the investments of entrepreneurs? Edith, you'll go with that question. So let's start with John Bosco and then Charity and then Edith on those questions, like that in a continuous manner. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Maybe if I may respond to the question on ratification. How many countries in the EAC that have EBRE ratified? I know Kenya has ratified, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania and Burundi and the South Sudan. They are in the process of ratification, but they signed the agreement. Perhaps Prudence could have the recent update, but what I know, those three have already ratified and deposited the instrument of ratification. Again, I wanted to respond to the same question, General, which Prudence touched on the conflict and the issue of conflict, where the conflicts are emanating. You know, in my previous position, I was working in South Sudan. And Prudence Ebre responding to that. When you look at the cause of conflict in the region, and yesterday I was looking at the Asian countries, IMF report on Asian countries, they reported that one of the cause of conflict is inequality and poverty. When the resources are not freely shared, and when there is that gap between, when there's a wider gap between the haves and the have-nots, then it brings one of the cause of conflict. And again, what we've also seen that the agreement like this, or the tools of trade, if I may speak, that those countries that are engaged into trade, they try to minimize and address conflict. So trade becomes one of the tools to resolve the conflicts. As I'm saying, when you look at the current trade, maybe between Uganda and South Sudan, Rwanda, and you look at, there is a lot of similarities and a lot of coherence that is coming, because it is usually very hard that countries that are trading to engage into conflict. So I think this agreement provides an avenue, a strong avenue, to address some of the issues related to conflict, issues related to insecurity, and I think you see that kind of political cohesion, the political environment, and when people are talking together, are doing trade, they always try to minimize and address and mitigate the impact that relates to conflict or any other threat for such a kind of an agreement. Again, I think when you look at even the trade statistics, new countries like EAC, the EAC has done quite well, substantial in terms of ensuring the intra-regional trade is moving. I think now it stands around 20%. So there is an avenue for us to take this advantage and exploit this enormous advantage provided by CFTA as a region, as a bloc, not as a single country.
All right, thank you. So I can go next on answering the questions. I'll be answering Gary Frida's question that reads, will this only help the financially empowered youth? And you'll notice that most of the contributors canvassed the involvement of women and young people in the FCFTA as participants and majority of the beneficiaries. So it is an opportunity to just tap into the talents of the young Africans and women in particular to just ensure inclusive benefits. And we have some case in points whereby you realize that 80% of businesses in Africa are categorized as small and medium-sized enterprises, and 18 to 35% categorized by the African Union actually defines it as youth and people who are aged between 18 and 35. And again, you'll realize that about 90% of women account for nearly 90% of the labor force in the informal sector. So yeah, I would say it's not precisely just for the youth, but it's gonna benefit youth and women at the same time. In regard to the women, it's actually mentioned in Article 3, Part E, that says promote and attain sustainable and inclusion socioeconomic development, gender equality, as earlier just mentioned by the panelist who was just done speaking, and structural transformation of the state parties, that is for women. And in Article 27, Part 2D of the Protocol on the Trade in Services, state parties are mandated to improve the export capacity of both formal and informal service providers, with particular attention to micro, small and medium-sized women and youth service suppliers. So yeah, you can see that a good focus is on women and the youth. I hope that helps.
Perfect. So I think my question was from Sumaya, and I messaged her because she's saying, my question is, what is the guarantee of Africa to be able to help the investments of entrepreneurs? I'm not sure that is very clear, because what do you mean by guarantee? And then what do you mean by investment of entrepreneurs? Like your investment into goods or your search for investment as an entrepreneur? I feel like that is a very wide.
Okay, maybe I should make it clear.
Yeah.
You know, as for Africa.
Yes, Sumaya. Sumaya, go ahead.
Sumaya.
Okay. Sumaya, go ahead. You are on mute. Sorry. All right. Sumaya, kindly. She's back. All right, Sumaya, 30 seconds, please.
Okay. Yeah. As Edith said, we mostly Africans who have been helped by the upper countries, developing countries, right? So I wanted to know if you say that we have to try our best so that Africa can help themselves. We have to be independent, right? So what do you think, what's the guarantee of Africa to be independent? Like helping or investing for the entrepreneur within the Africa. You got my point?
Yes. Now I got you, my dear. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
So, perfect. I think in line with what I have been saying is just to make sure that as Africans, I feel like this is something we have to take initiative on our own to make possible, right? We know that there's a gap, that there's a need for investment in entrepreneurs. In the African continent, we know that there's a need for small business investment. What do I mean? When a lot of the businesses that are in the African continent, they're not looking for $1 million. You know, a lot of them are looking for $50,000, $100,000, even $5,000. And they will probably be able to pay that or have a payback period of 3 months, 6 months. So what does this mean? It means it's not something that a white investor has to be approached for $5,000, you know, or 50,000 Kenya shillings or 500,000 Kenya shillings. You don't need to go to a white person for this. So what does this mean? It means entrepreneurs need to start getting into spaces where they can be supported by African-based knowledge centers. And a good example is at Ariel for Africa, we have funded 75 of our entrepreneurs. How did we do it? We are Africa-based, right? We're not white people. We're not, I'm very black. So we're not white people that are supporting entrepreneurs. No, no, no. We're Africans that are supporting entrepreneurs. So what am I saying? Get into the right spaces, get into circles where you're within African connections that are really trying to fund Africa-based businesses. Another example is the Association of African Startups. Look them up as well. Another example is what players like Vusi Thembakwayo, I know he's very popular in the entrepreneur community, are doing in South Africa. There are a lot of players, a lot of African players that are beginning to rally and create that funding that small business owners in Africa need, right? And it's on the basis of either debt or equity, and it's available. It's just making sure which circles are you in, right? Which mentorship are you receiving? Don't just be an entrepreneur in a silo. You know, that's where entrepreneurs, we really fail in Africa. When you want to stand by yourself and you think you're going to get anywhere, which is why then it becomes a thing of, where do I get investment? There's no money, there's no money. Please make sure that you get into the right circles and connections. And I've mentioned a few of them. And just making sure that you are part of the conversations when investment is concerned. And also, again, this is a plea or a call to action, right, for all of the players in the corporate world. When you guys are getting your pensions, please don't go and buy houses. It's good, but at the end of the day, the return on investment is not as sweet as knowing you've helped a business owner and that has led to jobs. So all of the retirees, all of the people that are on the wealthier side, can we please start to create equal access ourselves? Otherwise, we'll die here waiting for government. Me, I gave up on waiting for government to do anything for me, or to do anything for my entrepreneurs. Guys, you got to get on your own grind. You will die waiting, and just mobilize it yourselves.
Amazing, amazing comments right there. And I
Thank you so much.
And I think it's fair that we now bring it to a close. Let me just do a bit of housekeeping right here. We are also live on our YouTube channel at ULEAD Africa. We are live. So that's it for the meeting. Thank you so much. I want to give a bit of shout outs here. I've been seeing some very unique, interesting names. Cedric Ishimwe. I hope I could. I hope I said that right. Brian Mutati, good to see you. Good to see all of you from East Africa, from Burundi, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, and all of you who just found time and resources to tune in and talk about trade and how we can empower each other as the African youth. I want to give a few people 10 seconds, if not 30 seconds, last minute and sign out. I just want to give I want Mr. Prudence Sebahizi to go first in his comments. Just 30 seconds of a parting shot for the East African youth as far as plugging into AFTA is concerned. Your time, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. My emphasis will come to the last question I have seen. That the youth, apart from these online engagements, do they have another forum where they can engage on the implementation of the FCFTA and institutional framework? The answer is yes. Youth have got a place and the right place in the FCFTA institutions, and they will be continuously involved in all activities of FCFTA. So you may wish to take my contact or go through your leaders, but I think our priority is the youth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prudence, for being that brief and precise. Let's go with Ayman, your last comments as we bring this to a close. Of course, we've had a spillover of around 56 minutes, meaning there is need, there is hunger for knowledge and opportunities under AFTA. Would wish to have this much more. Ayman, your 30 seconds.
Thank you so much. To conclude, I would just like to reiterate what Edith just said. Do not wait for governments to come and get things done for you. Youth have to actually mobilize and collaborate with each other. That's the only way forward. Because again, like I mentioned before, we have seen a lot of trade agreements. What have they
Iman, you seem to be losing you again. Oh, sorry. I'm seeing Nigeria there for house. Samuel Ojo, shout out to you, brother. Hi, Jay. You see Nigeria, we call him Obodo Ibo. Siam, eh?
I don't see
Iman
the
is back.
AFCFTA being
Okay.
different, except if we take the initiative ourselves and try and do something about it. And when we start, hear me now?
Go ahead. We had lost you, Iman.
Oh, okay. So it's good you can hear. I was trying to figure out if you could hear me. I was just pointing out that when we started this discussions, there's a video you played, and it's interesting. While the video was playing, somebody said we should stop agonizing and start organizing, and that's exactly what we should be doing to increase our collective. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this panel. It's been super exciting, and thank you to everybody who participated and the fellow panelists. I'm looking forward to doing this sometime again in the future. Thank you.
Charity, 10 seconds as we close.
Right, so mine is just to reiterate again what the fellow panelists have said, and I think all Africans, including myself and everyone in this panelist and out there, we should take it as an opportunity to turn a new page on the Africa's economic development, basically, and we want this to succeed for Africa. So I'll again finish with what Nelson Mandela said. I hope that our choice on this matter reflects our hopes and not our fears. So people know that it's not going to happen overnight, but what is going to be, it's going to be celebrated, and that Africa is moving rapidly toward this integrated market. And thank you so much for having me. It's been great interacting with you. Yes, thank you. God bless you.
All right. As we bring this to a close, also let me give Edith, 10 seconds again.
Yeah, it's simple. It's very simple. The agreement is nothing without you. And Ayman, I think, has alluded to this as well. You are the agreement, friend. You must do the work. Don't wait for the agreement to do the work. You have to do the work. The agreement cannot stand if you do not stand for what you believe in and for what you want. So take up space. Be an audacious African and an African Wanjiro or an entrepreneur if you must. The agreement is yours, or it doesn't exist at all.
Wow, amazing. That's quite powerful. Let me bring in the organizers of this event. I want to bring in Frank Mireri. Frank has been on the technical team and has been facilitating with a lot of materials here and there, links in the poll. Frank, we'd love to hear your voice and to hear from you, please.
Thank you so much. Just to share briefly the poll results. The poll has been interesting. For in 30 seconds, I can just share with you because we are co-creating this. Question number one, have you heard about the AFCFTA? 84%. So probably this is a more enlightened audience. Number two, have you ever been involved in any AFCFTA related activity? Yes, 33%. No, 70%. Number three, are there other platforms apart from this one for you as a young person to contribute to the implementation of the AFCFTA? 49% said yes. 53% said no. So that's a close one. And then finally, where did you hear first about the AFCFTA? Newspaper, 7%, social media, 63%, in class, 12%, television, we have 7%, discussion with friends, 21%, and others, we have 19%. So thank you so much to everyone. We really appreciate and see you soon. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you so much, Frank Mireri, for facilitating all this and making all this possible. I now want to bring in a representative of ULEAD, who are big partners in this and in enabling the young people to plug in and have a conversation. I want to invite Moses Chasi, quite a mouthful name. I hope I get it for Moses Kanyesije. I believe a Ugandan by origin or by nationality, based in Arusha. Moses, karibu sana. Tell us a bit about ULEAD and the role that you guys are playing in enlightening the young people in all these opportunities in Africa and how we can plug in. Karibu.
Thank you, Brian. The name you have pronounced it well. And allow me to thank everyone. These days, we don't say Ugandan, East Africa. Now we say Africans.
African.
Because integration starts with you. Integration starts with me. It was Ayman who says, I don't know whether it was Ayman who says, how will this CFTA work when Tanzania cannot trade with Kenya? Us and youth, have you ever questioned your minister asking, why are you not trading with the other country? But allow me to say thank you to everyone, to our moderator, to our conveners, to participants, panelists, guest speakers, everyone here. We appreciate and we take your feedback very, 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 very well, and I will make sure that they reach the intended office. ULEAD is called the Youth Leadership Program. It is program under Training Center for Development Cooperation, which we call MSTCDC, whose headquarters are in Arusha, Tanzania. This project, AU-GIZ, called the Youth Inclusion Accelerator Program on Continental Free Trade Agreement. We looked at youth, at this agreement and what the benefits brings, and it is solving many challenges that youth are facing: unemployment, limited travel. And we said, okay, this is a good program, but are we aware of it? That's why we came up with this program, to know the awareness, to assess the knowledge of youth in relation to CFTA. And it is we got support from AU-GIZ. It's a 2-year project that we think after finishing, it will bring an impact, especially to the office of Mr. Prudence Sevahizi. And at this quarter, we are doing a continental scoping study, engaging with stakeholders, youth leadership, youth program, to see. And this, at the end of this month, I will make sure that the report, I will finalize the report, and the report will be shared to you. This is part of the consultation. We are having African consultation. We started with the North, Central Africa, now East Africa. We are having West Africa and Southern, and we will end with a continental. Again, when we will invite you all, our continental engagement will be on 26th of April 2021, 2 p.m. So thank you once again. Thank you, moderator. Thank you, everyone who has come. We can't thank you more, but appreciate your time. See you, and always be blessed.
All right, thank you so much. I hope I'm not leaving anyone behind. To all of you, once again, let me give a special shout out to Samuel Ojo, all the way from Nigeria. It's good to have you on board. I saw someone also from, I think was tuning in from Norway, if I'm not wrong. Checking from Boston. He's from Benin, but he's tuning in from Boston in America. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the fact that you took time and found resources to tune in so that we have this conversation. Brief shout out, Rashid Shukran, Dusabe Regis, I saw Laura. I'm trying to get the name correct, but Laura, we saw your tweet on Twitter. Thank you so much for tweeting with the hashtag after youth inclusion. We hope that this conversation doesn't end here. We want to have you so many other times so that we have this conversation. I believe you're going to get the video on YouTube after it is rendered and played. We are live currently, but it's going to render, and then we'll be able to play it back. To you who came, once again, thank you so much. We believe also Frank is going to send us the materials and all the and everything else that we need as resources to plug into AFCTA. God bless you. I'm Brian George Atieno from KTN Standard Group. It has been a pleasure, and we hope we do this more often. Asanteni sana. That's how we say it here.
Thank you, Brian. As people exit, I will ask and request the ULEAD team to remain behind from shouldn't log out.
MC Benny.
Come on, East Africa. It's a party.
Tell them. Afrika Mashariki. Twaja pamoja.
From country to country, yeah. We gotta work together. We are leaders now. Aiming high for the better. Together. To make our nations greater. We're sharing to the power. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality. We will lead, let your dream be a reality.
Together we'll shape with responsibility as young people with ability. Here we are to take the opportunity to raise the flag of East Africa. Together with love, together with peace, together respond to our need. Together transform our community as we see light and a bright future. Let's join hands for youth and women. Let's join hands for youth and women.
Afrika Mashariki yote twaungana, vijana vijana kutoka Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Burundi hadi South Sudan na Rwanda. Twaja pamoja ili fanye nini? Vijana wote.